Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Plus. I'm Shweta Kothari. We're bringing you stories from the world of business policy and economy. First up, let's take a look at headlines. Government takes note of extra charge for airline seats during web check-in. Civil Aviation Ministry told to address the issue. Indian Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal will meet Tesla chief Elon Musk in the US next week as Tesla plans and prepares to enter India. And amid raging deepfake debate in India, social media giant Meta has announced new policy, asks advertisers to disclose when they digitally create or alter an advertisement. As air quality worsens in Delhi, government bans entry of non-Delhi registered cabs from the national capital. Cabs booked through Ola, Uber and other apps will feel the impact. And telecom regulator instruct companies to get fresh consent from mobile phone users before sending promotional and marketing messages. All those stories here on Newsline with me, Karthik Malhotra. Karthik, good morning.
Morning, Shweta.
Well, a whole host of stories that we're tracking, but more importantly, a consumer-centric story that is now emerging, which is all of us who take to flights, try to web check-in, have to pay extra to get that seat, that desired seat. It now appears that road would be clear to get any seat we like if the directions of Consumer Affairs Ministry are taken into account.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if these would be directions of the Consumer Affairs Department or whether this would be a request to the Ministry of Civil Aviation. But I think as a user, every time you book a flight, you pay for the ticket. What are you really paying for? You're paying for your right to be seated in an aircraft that will take you from the point of origin to your destination. Now, you web check in and you select a seat. A selection of seat is mandatory after web check-in, and then any seat that you touch on, unless it is one of those really shabby middle seats, you're asked to pay extra. So if you have already paid for the ticket and if you're web checking in, and as part of the web check-in you have to select a seat and that seat is a paid seat, it obviously pinches. Now, seat prices range anything from about 150 rupees to about 1200 rupees. Now, even certain front row, middle seats are chargeable, which go by the nomenclature of B or E, depending on which side of the aisle you're sitting on. In economy class, that's what I travel. So every time you're asked to pay anything from 150 rupees to perhaps an emergency exit or a front row that offers you a larger leg room, going up to 1200 rupees. It is obviously something that bothers consumers. Absolutely. And consumers, as well as certain more influential people, have taken to social media recently and posted that if I've paid for the ticket and if I'm web checking in, why am I asked to pay for that window seat or that aisle seat or an extra legroom seat in addition to what I've paid for the ticket? Now, finally, I think it seems now that the Department of Consumer Affairs is taking up this crusade. And a series of requests or directions, as we want to see it, being suggested, proposed to the Ministry of Civil Aviation. Number one, after web check-in, when you're selecting a particular seat, that seat should not be chargeable. It should be built in as part of the ticket. I'm sure airlines, when they are asked to comply, are not going to fully comply. They're going to partly comply. So they're going to make perhaps the cost of extra legroom seats even more expensive, even higher. But that besides, the Department of Consumer Affairs is also saying that perhaps an establishment of an airline ombudsman, it's about time that you have an ombudsman, like you have a banking ombudsman or an insurance ombudsman. You should have an airline ombudsman which takes into account, takes into cognizance the consumer complaints that emerge for airlines. And that in effect is going to streamline, smoothen, iron out the challenges consumers face when they are taking to the skies with respect to airlines that they fly, or within the airport, any facilities pertaining to web check-in, self-check-in, etc. So an ombudsman establishment is the second point. And the third equally important point is that many aggregators, travel aggregators, have not yet issued refunds. And these refunds are now to the tune of 30 to 40 crore rupees on cancellation of airline tickets made during COVID-19. So when in any case there were no flights operating and there was no movement within cities, leave alone outside of cities, people who had pre-booked their travel eventually had to cancel their tickets. And many of those cancellations did not make it to a refund stage. Now, of course, when you book tickets, you book a certain fare which is cancelable, and sometimes you get a cheaper fare for a non-cancelable flight. But when there was COVID and obviously airlines were grounded and movement was suspended throughout the country, there was no way that even on a non-cancelable ticket one could have taken that flight. So these tickets and amount, to the tune of about 40 crore rupees is still pending, yet to be cleared by aggregators.
So those are the directions of
Department of Consumer Affairs. Those are the three proposals, I would call it, if not directions yet.
All right.
And I think
I want to understand the rationale for paid seats, because paid seats has bothered everybody. I'm not sure about you, but I have tweeted about it.
Right.
If I've paid for the ticket, I shouldn't be made to pay for a seat. Ideally, if you look at the timeline of things, just about a couple of years ago, airlines were not profiting from seats. They were allowing consumers to choose the seats they like and check in. This is a new phenomena. Now, I'm all in for profiting, but at the cost of consumers.
I mean, at one level, Shweta, we've got to appreciate, if not relate with the concerns of profitability concerns of airlines. Now, we are perhaps talking about a time maybe a decade ago when you had a carrier called Kingfisher and you had a carrier called Jet Airways. Both of them cease to exist as of this moment. And the only seats that you would pay for additionally, and that too much later, I remember 10 years ago walking into the airport, checking in, not web check-in, a physical check-in at the counter and requesting for an extra legroom seat, and I would be allotted that if it was available without me having to swipe my credit card. So I think things have changed drastically. What we saw, luxuries or what is referred to as a basic product being a seat was not something that was considered to be luxury and was not something that was considered to be attaching a premium to its availability. And we've seen what has happened to airlines. Now we are in a scenario where there are multiple airlines, many still going bust, not likely to recover, etc. Go first, we've seen what's happened. But now you have far more number of airlines. You have aggregators. On their pages, you can literally see, prices of airlines separated by just 10 minutes and a difference in price. So you've got to keep your original booking price, selling price very, very competitive. Now, if you keep it so competitive, and there are tools which make you understand what are the going rates and what is the availability across airlines, if you keep your prices, original prices competitive, how do you make money? So innovative measures there to make money. Of course, in addition to just paying for seats, I remember 10 years ago, you would also have free meals being part of your ticket. You would have free drinks part of your ticket. Not happening anymore.
Absolutely.
I think the only exception being some airlines, Indigo in particular, now offering you a free drink with a paid meal. But beyond that, I think airlines have not really, been very concerned about the cash outgo for consumers.
With wafer thin margins, they've got to find a way to
but I think seat is as basic as it gets. I mean, it's not a DTC bus that you can stand and travel the distance in. I think you've paid for the seat. It's your right to fly. And if you've bought a ticket, that ticket should assure a seat to you. And that seat need not necessarily be a sandwiched middle seat. So I think Department of Consumer Affairs taking up this cause of consumers, this crusade to make these hidden costs more transparent, and hopefully airlines should comply if the directive goes from the Ministry of Civil Aviation.
All right, which essentially means the next time you are taking to a flight, you may not have to pay for that aisle or the window seat, which is now becoming increasingly prevalent for all possible airlines in the country. But moving on to a story that is coming in by the way of Tesla. When will Tesla finally make its India foray? The when is not clear yet, but we know it's going to be sooner rather than later. Some are suggesting as early as January. And to iron out the final entry points details, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal is going to meet Elon Musk.
That's right. I mean, Commerce Minister is in any case slated to travel to the US next week. And as part of his schedule, the Reuters report we saw this morning suggests that a meeting between Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal and Tesla chief Elon Musk is likely to happen next week. Now, what is likely to be the agenda of this meeting, Shweta? I think, it's very clear. We've known for a while now that Tesla officials have made multiple visits to India. Elon Musk had met Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Mr. Modi's visit to the US in June this year. And thereafter, there have been speculations and reports about Tesla wanting to come to India. Now, Government of India has been very clear, right from day one, that if you want to sell in India, you've got to make in India. Elon Musk, on the other hand, has also been fairly clear on his requirement, and his requirement being that, it's not going to be possible to come to India and start manufacturing immediately, but give me access to the Indian market, and that access by way of reduced import duties. Now, what are the import duties presently? Electric vehicles attract 100%. I'm talking about the fully built electric vehicles attract 100% duty. So if the cost of a Tesla car in the US is, let's say, $40,000, when you import it into India with the 100% duty is going to cost you $80,000.
Double the actual price.
So it's double the actual price. So 100% duty. However, for the non-EV, the traditional fuel-based cars, there are two slabs. There are two slabs. One being cars which are under $40,000 and the others being above $40,000. Those which are under $40,000 attract a 60% import duty. Those above $40,000 attract a 100% duty. Now, Government of India reportedly is mulling over this idea that in any case for India's own electric mobility push, it might be a good idea to reduce duties on electric car imports, fully built electric car imports to as low as 15%. Now, 15% makes it a very, very attractive proposition. So, what is likely to happen eventually if this policy goes through? And the Government of India is also reportedly fairly clear that we will offer this reduced from 100% a 15% duty only if you commit to set up a manufacturing base in India. Now, Elon Musk's dream has been to specially design an India-specific electric vehicle, which is going to cost $24,000, equating at present conversion rate to about 20,16,000 rupees or so, right? So about in the range of about 20 lakh rupees.
24 lakh,
so 20 lakh rupees electric Tesla branded vehicle to be made in India for Indian consumers. Right now, the cheapest model that Tesla sells in the US is the Model 3. Model 3 in the US is priced at about $38,000. Converted back to INR, it's likely to be around 32 lakh rupees or so. So it's still a premium car, not a luxury car, the Model 3. Now, if this Model 3 is the first car that were to come to India with this 15% import duty, you're looking at the price tag to bear a figure around 36 lakh rupees or so.
40, yes.
Right, a fully built electric car, a Tesla for all that it's worth. And eventually, so it seems that if this proposition does go through, that is the first car that may drive into India. I think Elon Musk will want to test waters with that car. But before he drives in, he'll have to make the manufacturing commitment.
Of course. And a question perhaps for everybody who's looking at this development would be, if you want Tesla to come and set shop, why lower the excise duty? And if you are to lower the excise duty, what is the incentive for Tesla to come and set shop in India?
Right, exactly. So I think that is the fine balance that the Government of India is trying to do, and not just with Tesla. I think even the free trade agreement with the UK for UK-based electric manufacturers to look at India or to first start exporting to India before setting up shop. I think we are fairly clear that we want about 70% of our fleet to be electric, averaged out between four-wheelers to passenger vehicles to commercial vehicles. We want about 70% of our fleet to be electric by 2030, and we don't yet have the complete expertise to build electric vehicles in India. So we are looking at international brands to come set up shop in India, perhaps give a boost to the component makers, the ancillary industry linked to the auto sector, to also get a fillip to manufacture components, parts which will go into the India models and thereby extend their sort of inroads into the same brands or the same components which can be used in other countries and other models of the same brand as well. So overall, I think we are looking at, maybe for the next 2 years or so, we are looking at, if things go well, Tesla's Model 3 to be imported fully built into India, attracting a 15% duty if both parties agree to that and Government of India changes its policy. Therein, within these 2 years, Tesla sets up its own manufacturing unit, its own set of vendors which will supply components to Tesla, and an India-specific version, maybe a trimmed-down Model 3 or Model 5, 8, whatever they want to call it, to be built specifically for a more attractive Indian price point of about 20 lakh
But that
rupees.
will happen later. The timeline for that is
2
not
years,
known.
2 years
just
is what it seems. Within 2 years, the plan to start manufacturing within 2 to 3 years is what the government is proposing.
Okay, but if we do get a Tesla car in India by January, it's going to be their cheapest model priced at anywhere between 35 to 40 lakhs in
If
India.
the 15% duty kicks in. If the 15% duty does not kick in, commitment, because Elon Musk does not make a manufacturing commitment, does not sign, a promise, a pact, then we don't know. But yeah, if things were to go well, this seems to be the likely road ahead.
All right. If you're waiting for that Tesla car, it could soon be made available in India. We are estimating a price point of 35 to 40 lakh rupees. That is, if all the details so far available with us materialize in time to come. But moving away to a story that is raging as a debate in India, deepfake. Deepfakes of one actress after the other has sort of created a very, a strong cacophony of noise on social media, where a lot of people are angry and a lot of people are also not sure of how to identify a deepfake from an actual original video. A lot of people falling for it and also asking for government to take strict measures and actions. Now, government has issued an advisory to social media giants asking them to pull the content down if they believe that a content is deepfake within 24 to 36 hours.
That's right.
24 being the minimum that the advisory says at the moment. Meta, which is one of the biggest platforms hosting both Facebook and Instagram, has also now issued an advisory for all of its, all the countries that it operates in, but specifically for India as well.
So, Shweta, I think it's a little too little, and I'm not sure if that is really going to. I mean, what is the advisory? The advisory is that any digitally altered advertisement, advertisement being the operative word here, any advertisement which has used generative AI or deepfake technologies or any sort of digital alteration of a face, of a personality, of an object, or whatever. So anything which has been digitally altered and used in an advertisement, and that advertisement gets posted on any of Meta's platforms, including Facebook, WhatsApp. WhatsApp doesn't have ads yet, but that is another story, that WhatsApp is also likely to introduce advertisements, at least in the channels feed which has come in. But back here, so I think Facebook, Instagram, eventually perhaps WhatsApp as well, any advertisement, and advertisement alone, which is using a digitally altered image or video or text or any other form of communication using AI, should carry a disclaimer. There should be a very, very clear disclaimer that states, like we've seen disclaimers that, no animals were hurt in the shooting of this film, or we've seen smoking is injurious to health. So I think,
so basically tell your
audience using a disclaimer that the images used or the video used or the voice used or the music used or whatever used in this particular advertisement has been digitally altered using an AI-driven technology, which may be deepfake, maybe any other Gen AI tool out there. So I think it doesn't solve the problem of deepfakes, user-generated deepfakes, celebrity faces, celebrity bodies, celebrity voices, or other influential people, celebrities or not, being used in user-generated content, not advertisement content being put out there on social media. And like we discussed earlier as well, Shweta, even a 24 to 36 hour window is fairly long. Virality happens in a matter of seconds. The amount of data that is being generated by users posted on social media, I mean, these are floodgates that are open and have been open for the longest time. There's very little you can do manually to prevent the water to flow, out of these floodgates. And that is going to require another set of tools, technology to be implemented, which is able to discern very, very accurately what is fake and what is real very quickly. And even if there is this iota of doubt within that technology that this could be a fake video, its reach should be contained. And perhaps then stage 2 could be some sort of a manual intervention using an expert, depending on what the filters sort of guard against, and a domain matter expert who is able to then discern whether it's a real or a fake piece of content should kick in. But I think a lot more needs to be done technologically and at the user generated end to contain the spread of deep fake or any other tool-generated misinformation.
Do you know, the problem of deepfake, Karthik, I've been covering since 2015-16 when it actually started, the bubble around deepfake news. Basically fake news. Deepfake is more recent a phenomena, but fake news items that were leading to killing of people, that were leading to a flurry of news items on social media being circulated at a wildfire space. Now all of that resulted in a lot of chaos over the couple of years. There was also a lot of back and forth between WhatsApp and the government, where the government wanted to understand the source of or origin of a message. which WhatsApp said cannot happen. Then there was a legal challenge and WhatsApp was dragged to court. Eventually, we don't know what came out of court, but we do know that platforms have to be held accountable every time there is a piece of item that they host which is not true. So platform accountability, has it really started kicking in your opinion?
So, that is exactly, Shweta, what the government of India also demands. It says that at the end of the day, an intermediary or a platform cannot absolve itself of all its responsibilities by just stating that the content out there is user generated. Who it gets circulated to is a function of virality. Absolutely. How many people have spent how much time consuming that content, liked it, shared it, commented on it, interacted with it, engaged with it, depends on, these are factors that go into deciding by the algorithm how many more people that message should spread to. Now, to your pointed question, in my opinion, I think it hasn't been done yet. I think platforms, while they would be held accountable, they are being held accountable. There are penal actions in the US, in Europe. We are beginning to see that in India as well against platforms. But platforms, to my mind, yet have not been able to, understand and deploy measures to really contain this identification of misinformation and then containment of spreading of this misinformation. So I think a lot more needs to be done at the platform level, and I think you need stricter laws, and that is what the Digital India Act at least should hope to get to. You need stricter penal action against the source of origin.
Absolutely.
The first person, the first perpetrator of creating a fake message, a fake piece of content needs to be held accountable. In addition to the platforms which need to continue to bolster their efforts, their technology to prevent misinformation to spread on their platforms.
You cannot just get away with saying we are intermediary.
Exactly.
You're not just intermediary, you're hosting that piece of content. So Government of India, of course, tightening news around social media giants, asking them to be held accountable for every piece of information or video or photograph that they host. But moving on to a story that is affecting everybody living in Delhi. Everybody is concerned about the air quality, which is worsening day after day. A lot of measures have started kicking in. Many of these measures will also kick in after Diwali, which is 13th of November, Monday onward, including your odd even. But one of the stories that we're picking up this morning is that cabs which are not registered in Delhi may also not be allowed to ply in Delhi after 13th of November. This is tentative a story, but essentially means that if you
only
are
Delhi registered cabs to ply in Delhi, and
so,
Haryana registered
Gurgaon
cabs, UP registered Noida cabs.
If you are hoping to travel from Noida to Gurgaon or Gurgaon to Noida after 13th of November.
Or to Delhi from either of these two cities. Yeah, I think, Shweta, I have my serious reservations against this rationale of the odd even scheme in the first place. I mean, I haven't seen credible enough data that suggests that restricting the number of cars on Delhi roads to half has a significant impact on pollution. And pollution in the months of October, November, December have been a problem for decades now. You have the same number of cars plying on the roads all through the year, Jan to December. Why does pollution become a problem only in these 3 months? Obviously, just vehicular emission is not the source of the problem. It is something that adds to the problem. How significantly, we don't know. Second, cabs. You look at the Ola, Uber cabs that ply in Delhi NCR. To my mind, they're all CNG. You don't have diesel cabs anymore. So if these are CNG, if this is a cleaner fuel, which in any case does not emit, the carbon monoxide and the particulate matter, which is injurious to health, harmful to health, and pollutes the environment even more, then any sort of restriction on cabs seems like an overkill in the first place. Now, add to that this confusion of whether this cab is registered in Delhi, should only operate in Delhi. Can this cab go from Delhi to other cities? Yeah, because it's a Delhi government-based rule. But can a Noida registered UP number or a Ghaziabad registered UP number or a Gurgaon or a Faridabad registered HR number enter Delhi? I mean, you have a cosmopolitan sort of culture in Delhi NCR, and NCR, by virtue of it, ensures that there are people traveling between cities in any case, and they can't take their own cab out. And now if they cannot take a taxi or a cab which has a number plate not bearing the DL sign, how do they travel to their place of work? So I think it's a serious challenge, and I'm not sure if if this is really going to help matters, whether it is containing pollution or in fact, if anything, it's only adding to inconvenience of passengers.
Absolutely, passengers expected to be further inconvenienced if it were to kick in. But I have to say we're not clear on whether Delhi, the order will apply for Delhi NCR as well, whether UP and Haryana registered cabs will be covered or not, because we don't have the details with us.
Yeah, but cab aggregators, I think in general, would be Delhi NCR related cabs aggregators use HR, UP16, UP14, DL registered cabs. I doubt there are aggregator driven cabs outside of these number codes operating in Delhi NCR anyway.
All right, but those, of course, one of the measures of the many measures Delhi government is taking at the moment to ensure that there is some full stop to the ongoing pollution menace that continue to hurt Delhiite people living in Delhi NCR years after years. But shifting focus to our big campaign on spamming, how to stop spam calls and what can the government do? Let's take a look. All right, spamming is a constant problem. It bothers all of us, each of us, Karthik, every point of time. Government has taken a lot of stringent measures. In one of the latest we're given to understand, telecom regulator has asked all companies which could be marketing, could be trying to sell a product, to first take consent, take a fresh consent, and then start marketing and sending out those messages.
So I hope that the 30th September deadline that was previously set, and this was a guideline, not an instruction, and obviously it was not adhered to, does not repeat itself. So what is TRAI saying? TRAI is saying that whether you're a bank, whether you're an insurance company, whether you're a real estate player, whether you're an OTT platform, whoever you are, if you're a business and as a business you want to send an SMS to a user and that SMS is a marketing related SMS, then what you need is the user's consent. Now, how do you get this user consent? Well, no points for guessing. Even the user consent comes through an SMS. So first, users will have to be spammed with a consent SMS. That consent SMS starting with 127 -- XXX, whatever the header can sort of eventually comprise of, and only whitelisted URLs, whitelisted OTTs, whitelisted APKs will be allowed to send even this user consent SMS in the first place. Now, you send a user consent SMS, users should explicitly be told what is the brand, what is the product, what is the nature or the scope of the messages that they would eventually receive if they agree and say yes to receiving SMSs from that particular brand or company. And after they've said yes, only then can these whitelisted platforms send messages, marketing related messages to the users. At
How
the same
likely
time,
are you to reply to a message like that?
I don't know. So, I somehow have this, very eerie feeling that the marketers are going to outsmart this technology or this sort of, guideline as well, because they may have time-bound consent sent. For example, a marketing company could, or a brand could send an SMS that, hey, Shweta, would you like to buy a real estate property in Noida? And if you would want to receive SMSs from me, and if you do not reply within the next 60 seconds of receiving this message, we take it as a yes. So there could be dark patterns, as we call them, right? There could be dark patterns emerging, from this as well. But yeah, I mean, let's not run down the effort being made by the regulator.
No,
and at the same time, I think there needs to be, and that is what the TRAI guidelines also suggest, that there needs to also be a way for the user to quickly revoke a consent. You've accidentally said yes, and you start realizing, or you've thoughtfully said yes, and you start realizing they are bombarding you with 50 messages a day. Now you want to get rid of it. How do you get rid of it? There should be a way to revoke that consent also.
Right.
And all user consent
across
platforms, yeah, so that needs to be built. So that is what the TRAI's instruction is, that a very, very explicit consent, and that should very clearly put in the brand, put in the scope of or nature of the SMSs that will be sent, and a way to revoke the consent as well. So once you agree to that, your life should hopefully get a little better. And I think what is most critical is heavy penalty again. I mean, unfortunately, we don't work if there are no penalties. There has to be some negative incentive for companies to adhere to this guideline and initiate it. And all these consents are going to actually be stored on a blockchain blockchain-like technology, a distributed ledger, which is going to store all these consents, and every time it gets revoked, again, on that distributed ledger, it gets revoked. So then there is no accidental slippage that, hey, my data was not updated, and hence I kept sending you the messages. That data is going to be centrally stored in a blockchain-like technology.
And is this just for messages or also calls? Because I get incessant calls.
For now, it is only for messages. I think you get incessant calls and messages, and unfortunately, even enough and more WhatsApp spamming now. So the idea is to, okay, I mean, they're definitely starting it with SMSs. Will it translate eventually to phone calls as well? I think it should. It will at some point. But I think the efficacy of this measure first needs to get, I mean, after its implementation, we need to test its efficacy. So multiple steps to get to before we stop receiving those SMSs.
All right, let's begin with messages first. Hopefully the messages stop coming through, then we'll move further to calls. But an important measure there by telecom regulator to instruct companies not to send spam calls. If a user has said a strict no, a ledger needs to be maintained. It has to be, constantly updated, all of those regulations to ensure that we head towards spam-free India. But with that, we have run out of time on this show. Thank you very much for watching.